We are just over 2 months into our big lap of Australia.
Can you believe it?
And we thought for this, our season finale for Series 2, we'd go through everything we've seen and done in South Australia and share it with you.
We didn't really know what to expect in South Australia, so having a summary like this would have been really, really helpful for us.
It's really, I reckon, undersold as a destination. We have had a genuinely good time in South Australia, and leading up to it, everyone said, oh, just skip through South Australia, it's too hot, it's too hot, keep going. But let me tell you, there is heaps to do and the weather isn't that bad.
We began our time visiting Mount Gambier.
It is, that whole region, the Limestone Coast, a geological oasis.
Built on limestone, it's caused these formations of the Blue Lake and lots of other sinkholes in the area, which are really fascinating to explore. There's also a lot of caves around with lots of stalagmites and stalactites that are really, really fun to go
is
and
fantastic.
visit.
Just the fact that there's volcanoes and sinkholes and all these amazing looking caves, it was really something else. So we really enjoyed looking through those.
Pretty cool region.
We then moved on to Robe, and Robe is somewhere we'd heard of.
It's pretty popular and well known.
As a holiday destination, even for Victorians as well. But the thing that blew us away about Robe was not just the streets, which you really like the look of all the streets with all the shopping. And
they were nice, quaint, yep.
There was
streets.
Cafes and restaurants with live music and all those sorts of things. But the fact you could drive on the beach and actually go out there, find a spot for the day on this massive beach.
And for
awesome.
Victorians, that's not something that we can do at home.
We don't do. And we just drove out, totally scared crapless, and headed out on the beach, and we didn't get bogged. It was to be honest, it was a two-wheel drive, had a nice concrete entry, but we were still pretty scared, but we had a great day out.
It was fun. Moving around the coast then, we headed around to Meningie, which is known for its pelicans, and that was really, really cool to see so many pelicans around.
Massive lakes, so Lake Alexandrina was huge. We stood up on the cliff looking out into the abyss, really, this massive lake, and I'm sure there's going to be bigger ones as we travel around Australia now, but it was massive. And we did a bit of fishing, we did a bit of exploring, we visited an Aboriginal community, which features on the $50 note, where a guy named David, an inventor, was from. Then we basically headed up into Tailem Bend, the Murray lands.
Sort of touched on that region there. So that's almost at the end of the Murray River that coming from Victoria we're well familiar with. We only touched on the area being in Tailem Bend, but there was heaps to do. Even for such a small town, it was very, very RV friendly and a great place to stay. We
just out of Murray Bridge. Yeah, and we went for a good swim in the Murray, and you know, that's something we've done as Victorians on the Murray River in Victoria over many, many, many years, and this is actually where it goes out to sea, so that was pretty exciting.
So it was a great park for kids to visit, and it was a nice little touch on the area, but you could certainly explore the area even more than we did. We headed around then to the Flora Peninsula and to Victor Harbour, which is another really well-known tourist destination.
Great spot.
And a really nice feel in the main part of town there. Again, heaps of cafes and restaurants. Heading over to Granite Island then, you get the unique experience of the horse-drawn tram going across the bridge. So we had to do that.
That was cool. Pretty unique, having a horse-drawn tram take you across, just like we have in Melbourne, but with a horse.
Then we got a real treat over on Granite Island, seeing these pods of dolphins.
Heaps of dolphins, just cutting laps. They were just back and forth cutting laps, which was fantastic.
Really put on a show for us.
We did some fishing there, and then we moved up to Rapid Bay, also on the Flora Peninsula. And that's like a fishing and swimming wonderland, Rapid Bay, isn't it?
It is.
We had a great time. So off the jetty, we caught our first ever squid on hand lines, and we thought, wow, this is unreal. People catching fish, things like that. We had plenty of time swimming.
It was great swimming. There's a little cave you can explore
there
as
cave.
well.
That was cool.
The
boys enjoyed that. We made some new friends. It was pretty packed over that
during
weekend.
The holiday period.
But what a spot! It was fantastic. Even had cold showers, which is pretty cool. So we saved our water, so we were able to be there for a little bit longer than normal.
Up in the Adelaide Hills, again a really popular destination, but we stayed somewhere a little bit different at the Woodhouse Scout Activity Centre, which was absolutely superb for the kids. We all had so much fun on Challenge Hill.
We hadn't stayed at a scout camp before, and this was an absolute ripper.
Yeah, so really, really good one to check out, and anyone can stay there and enjoy the facilities that are there as well. We did a few day trips around the area, and everything's so close that that's the perfect way to approach the area, I think, and explore it. So we went to Handoff. We went to the Murray Alta Falls and saw heaps of koalas
everywhere. Just that whole area was just full of animals, so there were just animals everywhere. And we even went to the giant rocking horse, the toy show, and they had a whole petting zoo there that you could go in there for just gold coin donation. Yeah, animals everywhere. Kids really got to, say hello to animals, really friendly animals, and And I think just doing the drives, there's a number of different scenic drives up through the Adelaide Hills, and of course there's wineries and things, but being a travelling family, we're not really big wine drinkers anyway, so it wasn't really high on our to-do list, but you certainly drive through all the vineyards, which is nice, and there's plenty to see. And driving around, it was really similar to the Dandenongs, wasn't it?
It was
in
very
Victoria.
similar to where we're from in the Dandenongs.
So really nice feel, and yeah, plenty to see and do.
Down in Adelaide, we had our city experience, and growing up as a child, we always or often holidayed in the city, so that was something that I really enjoyed, going and visiting different cities. So we spent a little bit of time in Rundle Mall. We were also there across the Australia Day weekend, so we were lucky enough to be able to go and take advantage of the events that they had on
massive celebrations.
There,
they have concerts, parades, fireworks, all free,
as most capitals do.
Yeah,
so that was
but
awesome
the Adelaide one in
timing.
particular is massive. So we had a concert from the Veronicas, and then it was a solid 10-minute fireworks show, which was pretty cool.
Staying at the West Beach Big
How
Floor
was
was
that?
a great facility,
That
really
was
fun for the kids.
Best caravan park we've been to, I think, so far, isn't it? I mean, as a standard caravan park, it was. It's massive, huge. Lots of people go there, but it's got enough facilities and it's big enough. Like the pool's massive. Didn't feel crowded, even on Australia weekends.
And really accessible into the city as well.
From Adelaide, we hopped across to Port Adelaide, and we went down there for another couple of days just to get everything right before we headed off towards the Nullarbor, I guess. And
so we had a really fun bike ride.
Bike ride was good. Hard work for poor old Harry.
They have free bike hire, which is a great one to keep in mind. In fact, a lot of councils do across South Australia, so we took advantage of that when we could. The boys have their bikes with them, but we don't have room for 5 bikes on board, so that was a really fun day out to be able to all go for a bike ride together. Harry's still learning to ride. Bit of a challenge for him, but it was a great activity.
It became a bit of hard work coming back. It's all fun and games riding with the wind, but it was a bit hard work getting back. But overall, still a good experience. After we departed Adelaide, and we met a lot of people over the previous period, they all talked about Yorks. And we wanted to be able to say Yorks too. We're talking about the York Peninsula. So we hadn't planned it, but we headed and hugged the coast. We continued our hugging the coast.
There's a lot of peninsulas in South Australia.
There really is when you look at them up.
They're
big. They're big. So we went down the York Peninsula, and we went to the very bottom first up, and we went to the Innes National Park, and wow.
We were told that Stenhouse Bay was a great place to stay. We had it pretty much to ourselves, and we enjoyed the time with the emus there. So they're the locals.
Emus everywhere, white sands everywhere. It used to be an old mine, so a chalk mine, and we did fishing. We perfected our fishing.
Jetty out there.
Massive jetty.
Nice little area that was overlooking it, so I could sit up there and watch the boys fishing.
Caught some more calamari, etc. And then once we had our time down there, plenty of time with the animals. Again, emus, another one on our native animal to-do list. We then headed up towards Moonta, where you had a plan for us.
We stayed at a great 48-hour free camp in Moonta, right in the middle of town, so we could walk everywhere. Again, the boys spent some time out on the jetty there, having a bit of a fish, caught some crabs for dinner, and then I had a bit of a surprise for the boys. They were getting into the fishing and they were really enjoying it, so I'd organised a charter fishing tour for all of us. We headed up early one morning. It was a bit too early for the boys.
Start.
They're a bit conflicted about it.
But they were excited, and we went off fishing and we caught heaps.
From Moonta, we visited somewhere that was actually not planned for us.
No, we looked at the weather and it was a good time to make a run for it.
Yeah, we headed up to the Flinders Ranges. It wasn't too hot, luckily, and we're really, really glad that we did. Seeing the ranges themselves was another experience, totally different to the beaches that we've been on. Our first taste of the outback,
really, and it was unlike anything we'd seen before.
Ronsley Park Station was a brilliant place to base ourselves. And the managers there were great to get to know as well, and really friendly. We had a day trip that was quite a long drive. We did a couple of 100k that day.
Yeah, 4-wheel drive and all-wheel drive trips around that area. We did that and went and saw, and then we also did touring around the area.
Yeah, so we really got a great feel for the area in about 5 or 6 days that we were there.
We did, and I guess to top it all off, after driving around and driving through, we ended up flying over top of the Flinders Ranges, and in particular Wilpena Pound, and just seeing the scale of it, because when you're down there looking up, I mean, it's big, but you don't realise how far back it goes.
You just get another perspective.
It was, that was really fantastic.
The route back down from the Flinders Ranges takes you through Port Augusta, and it was time for us to stock up on some supplies again. We also visited the Cultural Centre there, which is one of the best ones in Australia we've heard, and it was fabulous.
Big Aboriginal Dreamtime stories shared with you. The town itself is very much a transit town, but let me tell you, that information centre is the best one we've seen so far, and just seeing that alone is enough. And probably it would be best if you're going up to Flinders Ranges, probably call in there first and get the Aboriginal perspective.
Bit of the history on the way
heading up. Well worth it.
We stayed just outside Whyalla at
Fitzgerald Bay. There's a lot of free camps around the coast there, and you can just pull in. We went to one that's really popular on Wiki Camps, but it was just full of grey nomads.
Yeah.
They were set up there for a long time. They were all together, and we're like, all right, maybe we better go somewhere else. But there is like 8 or 9.
You can just drive around and choose one.
Yeah, so we found one which was great, and it had toilets. Were they flushing toilets? Oh, flushing toilets.
Flushing toilets.
And which, for those playing at home, a flushing toilet is a rare luxury. And there was water right nearby, but it was quite shallow into Fitzgerald Bay, and it went a long, long way out. So I guess if you were going to take some footage, some drone footage, you'd have to go up a fair way.
Yeah, drone, it'd be a good thing to do. Use your drone there, go up nice and high. Yep. Maybe not.
Maybe not. So
we lost our drone.
It crashed into the water, lost our drone. Check out the episodes and you'll see everything that happened there. But happy to say that we got it back later on as we moved down to Port Lincoln. But after
back through Whyalla then, there was
the
fabulous ship HMAS Whyalla, which we lucked out. We got there right on time for a tour. Lucked in. And the tour was fabulous, well worth doing, and really, really interesting for the boys to see through the history of the HMAS Whyalla. And they've got a museum there that's almost frozen in time. It's back in the 50s or 60s, but so much information and really interesting for the kids to see as well.
It's a minesweeper, so you can see all about what it was doing. They had a lot of shipbuilding in the area back then, so that was quite interesting. From there, we headed up to what quickly became it's probably still one of our favourite spots, Lipson Cove.
We found a gem of a place to stay there. Lipson Cove was just beautiful as a beach location. You're actually staying just off the beach. It's right across from you. So you've got the red sand and then you've got the beach. It was magnificent.
So we set up the car on the beach and we had a good day there. Fishing. I was fishing long into the night because it was so close to the caravan. I said, Steph, I'm just going to go out and have a fish.
One of those places that you go for 1 or 2 nights and stay for 4 or 5.
Yeah, we did it. We blew that out straight away. And it's really close to Tumby Bay. So we ducked into Tumby Bay for some jetty fishing and looking at the artwork. And that was quite interesting, all the artwork in Tumby Bay. And you're able to get some supplies there, fuel and all that sort of things. Before we continued on down to the very bottom of Eyre Peninsula, which is Port Lincoln.
Yep. So we had a few days in Port Lincoln, checked out the library there and managed to get some schoolwork done.
Met some families
first
time,
which was pretty cool.
We'd been on our own to that point really in terms of families, and all of a sudden there's all these families and kids around, so it was great. The boys were well overdue for a play.
Again, we stocked up this time prior to heading across the Nullarbor, so managed to hit the shops up in quite a few different ways.
Yeah, that was our big shop for the Nullarbor, and it was also where we were able to replace our drone. So luckily our insurance came up with the goods and we were able to replace the drone, which meant we'd have that for later on in the Nullarbor. And as you'll see from this point in our episodes, you'll start to see some of the drone shots coming in. It's well worth it from what we're able to see and do. And from there, we headed up from Port Lincoln up to what then became our favourite spot
One
ever.
of my favourite spots.
I think it will be forever.
Palubi Beach.
Yeah.
Palubi Beach has these little beach huts that you can go and pull up next to if you're lucky. We didn't get one the first night, but we were lucky that a family moved on the next day.
Lots of travelling families there. We hit the mother load really. When we arrived, the day we arrived, there would have been over 10 kids, and while we're there was at least 7 floating around, so it was really good.
We could have still been there now. We had such a great time.
Amazing sunsets, just watching the tide go out and the sun go down. It's a west-facing beach. And
have these little huts as your lounge room.
Yeah.
It was just superb. It was hot while we were there. It was up to 42 degrees, I think, but it didn't feel it underneath these huts. You had the wind
it really felt like
through.
Bali or Fiji or something like that, right in South Australia, and really it's not that far from Melbourne. Like, what a gem of a spot.
Yeah,
to be
$10
able to go
a night.
Yeah,
can't beat it.
Amazing. And so from there we commenced our run into the Nullarbor.
Journey across.
Now, I had heard, like many people have probably heard, all these things about the Nullarbor, and what I firmly believe now is most of the beliefs and thoughts and I guess things that are accepted about the Nullarbor were founded in the 70s. It used to be a pretty ordinary road, and you used to have cars that were pretty ordinary, small fuel tanks, ordinary tyres, things like that. But I'm happy to say we got across. We didn't need extra fuel. We got fuel every 200 to 300 k's. We didn't get a flat tyre, and we passed so many cars, trucks, motorbikes, even a dude on a bicycle.
And we enjoyed the experience.
Yeah.
There was actually heaps to see, and it was a really nice community and culture. Everyone's in a good mood as you're going across.
Great. And
everyone's friendly and up for a chat whenever you stop.
You've got to take your time. So we ended up taking 5 nights, and I'll go through where we went in a moment. But if you take your time, there's so many things to do. So our first stop was going into Fowler's Bay, a place called Scott's Beach. A little bit bumpy getting in there, and we had a little bit of damage. If you look at our episode, we had a few problems, but very minor. It's fixable. But the site, looking out on the bite, was just fantastic, wasn't it?
Yeah, nice place to connect with nature. Before then heading off, and we stayed the next night at the Nullable Roadhouse.
Now this is a place that had a bad name previously, but there's new owners now and they've spent quite a bit of money on it.
They've really made it fit beautifully into that outback sort of culture, I guess.
They've got the right name for it too, the Nullable Roadhouse, and
outdoor barbecue.
It is the number one there.
areas.
It's the number one. We stopped at all of them. It's the number one. It is fantastic. Facilities are great and things to do around the area.
Plug in, get some aircon for the night. The golf is behind it, so one of the what's it called? One of the holes.
Nullable Golf, the Dingo's Den is there, and just beside it is a road out to some caves. So we're able to go out and explore some caves. I'm not going to butcher the name now. You have to watch one of our episodes to see that. Everything we're talking about here is captured across all the episodes earlier in this series, so you can go through and have a look. But
then we headed on to your highlight for the Nullarbor.
Yeah, the Bunda Cliffs. Now, I'd heard about this. Just the concept of camping on the bottom of Australia looking out essentially to Antarctica was something I was always looking forward to, and the caves really were as dramatic as I'd hoped.
The boys can't remember seeing it because they were stuck inside the van.
Steph's developed this fear of heights with the kids, so she didn't used to have it, so she tells me, but since having kids, she's really worried about it. So the kids were on watch.
Keen for them to be
they weren't allowed out. They had an area they were allowed to go in. Admittedly, I parked close to the edge, not dangerously close, but I wanted to be close, and you can see in some of the footage we had. It was well worth it.
We had a nice sunset there.
It was beautiful. Yeah, the fires were raging at that point, so we're a bit worried about our exit from the Nullarbor because there was big fires either side of Norseman, so the freeways were actually cut off, and there was 130 trucks at one stage stopped, and all that smoke had wafted across. But the next morning, it had cleared, and as a result, we were able to get some great footage.
Yeah. I think we had a big day driving after that. At some point, you've got to do a few hundred kilometres.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad though.
We ready to get moving, so we said, let's do the biggest drive we've done so far, and that got us across to Cocklebiddy. And Cocklebiddy Roadhouse, it's just your quaint roadhouse, but it happened to be a 46-degree
hot
day.
And dusty when we got there.
And it's a big dust car park, so it's like an oven. It was a dusty oven.
Bunkered down, slept for the night.
Had a couple of wedge-tail eagles there. It's a pretty cool little bar in there, so I got a few beers, and we basically then packed up to keep going across to the end.
Crossing the border the next day. So over in Border Town, they've got the 3 clocks, which show you the Western Australian time, the South Australian time, and in the middle they've got border time. So a little known fact there that they've kind of got halfway in between because they couldn't decide which one to go with. This goes back years quite historically. So we had a meal there as well for lunch.
The best chips I've ever had.
Lunch, but this one was
They
good.
were so crispy and great, and it was a massive bowl of chips. And let me tell you, I'm still thinking about how good those chips were. The Nullarbor for me were Bunda Cliffs and the chips at the Roadhouse. So if you do pass through, go in, get the wedges, get the chips with gravy. Unbelievable.
We got through the border, heading over to WA, no problems. Just make sure that you've finished up all of your fruit and veggies before you get there, or that they're in the freezer, which is fine as well. Then we were in Western Australia.
We were there, and that was done. So South Australia, is it us?
I feel like that's our alarm.
No.
Not our alarm.
So South Australia has been fantastic in the variety of things. If you think about what we've seen caves, we've seen volcanoes, hills, ranges, outback, beach, forests, what else? Swam in the beach, swam in clear waters,
so much diversity.
Lakes, city, up in the hills, wineries. There is just so much to see and do. But for me, I'm going to remember the beaches. I think that's what I'm going to take away is the beaches and the cliffs. And just South Australia is such a big state. We didn't even get up to the top. We didn't have time. Doing a lap of Australia with a defined period.
Really just touched
You
on
got
the
to keep,
outback side.
you got to keep moving, and it is so big. And we didn't even get up to Coopapedy, so hopefully we can do it another day.
Yep,
we didn't do Kangaroo Island. That was one that we would have liked to have done, but it was going to be a bit too expensive. But overall, the experience was great, and we do see a lot of people who plan their itineraries they say, all right, we're just going to do a month in South Australia and get across to the interesting things. Don't skimp on South Australia. Our 1 month itinerary blew out to 2, and we could have done so much more.
Could have done heaps more.
Easily.
Yep.
And
So-
we weren't rushed, but it was just a big place with lots to do.
Thanks, South Australia.
It's
for
been
an awesome
great.
time. We'll be back again.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a wrap of our Season 2, our Series 2. Next up, Series 3, Western Australia. So thanks for following
big
along
one.
our episodes. We're enjoying making them, enjoying sharing the journey with you. Hopefully see you in the next series.